Welcome to part 2 of episode 4 of the Climate Alarm Clock. I'm still here with Ciara Daly and Anna Pringle. Last week we did a special episode on the IPCC report, and there is so much in it that we said we're going to look at a little bit of the report every week. So we're going to start this week by looking at some of the stats around energy. And
how do you know I love a stat so much? Come on.
Darragh, we're still a bit giddy after the wedding story.
I know. Yeah, I'm going to really bring you down to earth here. But I think it's important to give these stats and these facts some breathing space. So that's why we're doing this new feature. So something that came up last week basically is that solar and wind energy production are growing globally, which is really, really good news. It's giving us clean energy. But the problem alongside that is that energy consumption in general is growing.
So you mean like as in people are getting solar but they're still using their normal electricity?
Exactly. So what we need to be seeing happening is that we are replacing or fossil fuel burning with solar and wind. But at the moment, actually, what we're seeing is that it's just being added on. So the global consumption of electricity is increasing. So while wind and solar are increasing, so too are the emissions from electricity. So we haven't gotten to a place yet where emissions are coming down.
Can I give you an example here in Ireland? So we are projecting that we want renewables to go from 7 to 80% of our electricity. But we're also projecting that our electricity needs are going to grow by about 30%. I'm talking up to 2030. So if you think about that, that means you have to have far more renewables, but also far more energy being used than we have. So the energy use is growing.
Can I ask why is it growing?
So one thing in Ireland would be new data centres, and then just general consumption increasing.
Okay, yeah. Fair enough.
Anytime you've got economic growth, you've got energy growth, as we currently do it. And so electricity needs are growing as you are growing the economy. Data centres is an example of that. Other industries are an example. Consumption drives energy usage. And we're all about driving consumption.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just think it's a really important point to be aware of, that while new solar and new wind is good, it's actually the other things coming down. And we see a lot of these effects kind of across industry in general. So one of the other things from the IPCC report that I thought was interesting was that houses have become more efficient in terms of their heating and electricity usage, but houses are getting bigger. So they're needing more electricity usage. Now, obviously, there are places where houses need to get bigger so that people can have a decent sized house and a relative amount of comfort. It is something we need to watch here, because if houses are getting more efficient but they're getting bigger, the actual net reduction in emissions isn't going to be that much. Similarly, one really depressing statistic is that all the emission savings from the sale of electric vehicles has been completely offset by the increased sales in SUVs.
Well, Darragh, I've told you to stop buying all those SUVs.
Because SUVs are so heavy on petrol that actually all the emissions reductions from
that's actually so depressing to hear.
Yeah. And in Ireland, 53% of new car sales in Ireland in 2021 were SUVs. So that's another place where we're going the wrong direction.
Okay.
And then the last example I have then is that fashion brands, the way they measure their emissions is that as long as their emissions go up more slowly than their revenue, it means it counts as their emissions going down. So suppose a fashion brand doubles their revenue and their emissions only go up by 10%. Even though their emissions are still going up, that counts as them reducing their emissions. So it's just something I think it's just something important, I think, for us to be aware of when we hear these things, when we hear about increased good news. We have to look at, well, actually, is this actually doing what it's saying? Are the emissions actually coming down, or is this just a bit of greenwash?
Yeah. I'm still trying to process that about the fashion brands, to be honest. So like you can double your profits, but your emission, like they are still slowing down, are they not?
They're going up more slowly, but they're still going up. The emissions aren't coming down.
Okay. So
So their emissions are being calculated against their total revenue. So
but it's actually not even related. Like if your emissions are going up, your emissions are going up.
Exactly. That's it. That's the point. Yeah. So
but it's allowing them to. It's basically greenwashing, is what it is.
That is sneaky.
Yeah, and there's so much of that around. So I think it was one thing that stood out to me in the IPCC report is those examples that, you know, like us putting offshore wind in Ireland, brilliant, but how are we reducing the fossil fuel consumption? And I think it's just something to be aware of, and it's a big challenge going forward, and it's something that we do probably need to tackle by reducing consumption.
It'd be great now if they could put, you know, there was a great contrast in, I'm going to go back to it, a great contrast in that Beckham article, all the money they spent, but it's okay because they donated to,
yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. They can feel good about
put
themselves.
that effort into their journalism around climate change.
Yeah. We're going to rename this podcast the Brooklyn Beckham Alarm Clock, and we'll have a little climate feature every week. Yeah.
But that's, I'm actually like, I'm still processing that fact. That is actually, like, I work in marketing, I should know that. But that is like twisting of the words. You have to be really careful.
You do. Yeah. That's it for part 2. Anna and Ciara, thanks so much for your contributions today, and we'll see you next week.
You're more than welcome, Darragh.
Thanks, Darragh. I'm off to unplug everything now.
Okay, great. Still to come in this week's episode, we start our collaboration with Birdwatch Ireland, and I chat to Pádraig Fogarty from the Irish Wildlife Trust. But coming up next is the Irish Enviro Event Guide.